Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Lethal Sales. We have a very interesting topic tonight. If you have one thing in your life that you've done or happened to you or whatever that you could change, what would that be? Do you have regrets? Have you made mistakes? Thank you all for being here. I think we're going to start with Mike Larkin tonight.
Good for you. I
Go get
had,
it, Mike.
you know what? As soon as you said the topic, I was thinking, you know what? Whenever I try to do an Irish accent like my mother, I comes out Jamaican. So if I were to change everything, my phony Irish accent would be more of an Irish accent. That's all.
That's all.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's the regret.
Hey, that's a
Life,
wee
life
little bit of
changing.
a
Life,
not
life,
a
life
good
changing.
thing there, lad. I mean, you've got to
the
come up with
hell
something better.
the hell of it is for the last 50 years my best friends would go, man, your mom's off the boat, man. And I was like, what are you hearing?
Right.
Because when you grow up with it, you don't hear it, except for St. Patrick's Day when she's on the phone talking to the cousins. I'm like, you're laying it on thick, ma. But
Yeah.
usually you don't hear it, but apparently it's there.
I had the
Well
same
planned,
kind of
Mike
mother.
Larkin.
And thanks for picking on me first because
You're
I had a, yeah.
welcome. Okay, let's pick on somebody who really has a problem here.
Hey, that's serious.
Okay. Jeffrey.
Man, well, I know that, and Peter and I just talked about this last week. I would have bought Carvana stock when it was like freaking nothing, when it was vapor. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, who knew? I drove past the empty silo here in Denver a lot, and I said, "Yeah, I don't know if that'll fill up or not."
Empty.
It did.
Yeah.
So, in saying that, that's kind of hindsight. Let's really get into the nitty gritty of it all. Um, First of all, I go through, and Russell and I have both had challenges in our lives and things like that, and I could probably say that Russell and I will agree on one thing: we wouldn't change it for the world because it made us who we are today. And so I look at everything that we experience in our lives as life's learning lessons. They're never mistakes. They're only mistakes when you actually keep repeating them. And I know that I repeated a couple, and Russell's repeated a couple, but eventually through education, experience, and wisdom, we figured it out the path to get around those mistakes. And that's kind of what's happening in the car business today. We repeat and repeat and repeat and expect a different result every single time. We expect that if we talk to a customer, we can improve that conversation with the customer, so it's now no longer 15 minutes, it's 12 minutes, and it's no longer 12 minutes, it's 9 minutes. And that's the path that we're trying to measure ourselves on, and it really isn't what we need to do. We have to understand that everything we do is an absorption. We're absorbing education, we're absorbing experience, we're absorbing wisdom, knowledge, you name it. You want to talk about it, we can say if we're right out there and we're actually absorbing things, we're making ourselves better. Because as we do that, we understand through those experiences and that wisdom what to do, what not to do, what's right, what's wrong, what's morally correct, what's not. And with that, I'd probably say if I was to change something, would have been the ability to understand that long before I was in my 50s, because that's how long it took before I actually recognized that wisdom. So if we're going to go and say what can we change, I'm going to say I'm going to change my wisdom and hopefully accelerate it. So that's but I wouldn't take away anything that has ever happened. Not a single thing, because that's who and what has defined me. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to my good friend, and I can't say in the yellow shirt because Jeff's wearing one too. Larry's doing text messages. Larry's doing a bunch of things, which he's multitasking without a pen and paper, which is amazing. And and with that, I'm going to pass it on to Larry and see what kind of wisdom that he has about change and reflection.
Okay, I'm going to quote the world's biggest toe sailor, Bob Hollinshead, who said, "Can I ask you a question, Feldman?" I said, "Sure, Bob." He says, "Why the hell didn't you do this 20 years ago?" He said, "Because if you started 20 years ago training and reaching out to people, I think you'd be bigger than Tony Robbins. What the heck were you waiting for?" Um, for every action, to quote Newton, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So if you do something, it changes all the other factors. So whatever you do uh, can absolutely change all the other things around you. Um, Russell, you and I always talk music. When we record a song, when we're done, we mix it. And the interesting thing is, if you slightly raise the bass, it changes the way you hear the drums. And if you change the drums, it changes the way you hear the guitar. Everything affects everything else. So I don't know. Maybe if I would have started earlier, I'd be in a different spot. But I also had so much fun and made so many contacts. So I think you have to be careful about wishing away a part of your past because it may change the way your present laid out and your future lays out. But I never did understand people that say no regrets, never had a bad day in my life. I don't know what planet you're living on. And I've had people die. I've had disappointments. I've had betrayals. Um, I, I just think that, you look back, maybe I would have done a few things differently. Maybe I would have been a little smarter about trusting people because that's one of the chinks in my armor. I tend to trust people too much. Um, but all in all, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable where I am. And the fallacy in the description that Rhonda said, and Rhonda's my right hand. Rhonda's description in this said, "What would your 30-year-old self tell your 20-year-old self?" And the reason that makes no sense, Rhonda, is no 21-year-olds listen to anybody anyway. So they're certainly not going to listen to the older version of you, right? Um, so
If
that's
I
it.
wrote that, then it was a typo.
Typos. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe I would have started this a little earlier, but I got so many fun stories and so many memorable people I met staying in the dealer world for a little longer. So, I don't know. At crucial times, you come into things, you miss things. It's so interesting how a phone call, something you missed, so you did something else, can completely change your world and your perception. So, I don't know. That's kind of my thought. Maybe I would have started this a little earlier, but hey, I'm still alive, I'm still kicking, and I'm still rocking. So who knows? Mr. Shearer, the other gentleman in the yellow shirt, what do you think? And then, of course, we'll get to Jason Reed.
Well, I think you make good point too, because I say now, and a lot of you guys know how busy I am during the day, and I'm like, man, but the opportunities weren't there 15 years ago, right? I mean, AI has just blown up my world and my business, truly. And, it's, I think there's some things probably you got to look at your past, because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow.
Jeff, you're very. I know you intimately. I ever since I met him and his son in Vegas, we just had a ridiculously tight friendship, and you're very happily married. How did you meet your wife?
Our parents had the same timeshare in Marco Island, Florida, the same place. And we happened to both be down there together one year at the same
So,
time while our
so
parents went.
imagine that year. Your mother says to your father says to your mother, "Damn it, I've got a conflict. Let's switch up the weeks." Everything's impossible right up until the second it happens. If you're married happily, 1 second before you met that person, you didn't know them. And I think we'll all agree that women tend to think of men as a pain in the neck, and men tend to think as women as a pain in the neck. And it's probably easy to talk yourself out of meeting somebody, but look what happens. Russell, I decided, and then I'll jump back to Jeff. I decided one day that I didn't want to become a lawyer. I wanted to be a musician. I had a very tolerant mother, right? I got it, and I have a guy who I knew and was my best friend who was a musician, and I said, let's start a band. And he said, okay, what are you going to do? I said, I'll be the lead singer and write all the songs. He says, Larry, I don't think you're much of a singer. And back then I wasn't. Have you ever written a song? I said, nope, it'll be fun. And a couple months into it, we held an audition for a rhythm section, and a drummer and bassist walked in who we're still dealing with 40 years later. What would have happened if they missed the ad? What would have happened if for some reason there was a conflict? So I think we have to look at life as what it is. You don't know who you're going to meet or how you're going to meet it. For every opportunity we took, there might have been 5 or 6, 7 paths that we didn't take, and everything I think affects everything else. I didn't mean to interrupt, Jeff, but it just
No,
kind of keyed in because you just don't know. 1 second, 1 minute, one phone call, who you missed, who called you,
well, and
all the difference in the world.
there's a saying that I think about a lot that, man makes plans and God laughs,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because, we hope things will happen.
No, 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 no. That's God make plans. Russell Hill laughs because he can't be on any more podcasts.
But
It's physically impossible. He'd have to
no,
be an amoeba and split into two.
to Peter's point too, everything that's happened to me, good or bad, has put me here with people that are some of my best friends right here now, you know? And yeah, I mean, I don't know that I don't know that I would have changed something. There's probably, if I had the choice, I may have made different choices to hopefully land where I am. But that kind of contradicts itself as a
You're
statement
here.
right there, right?
Yeah, you're here already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see our buddy Tony jumped in. Jason, if you don't mind, let's jump to Tony because sometimes his time's a little limited. Tone, just trying to see if you could have changed something along your path. What would you do? And what are your thoughts? Is there something you look back on your life and you say, man, I wish I had done this instead of that, or I wish I had done that instead of this? And
Well, I think if anything, thanks, Larry, for asking. I think if anything, I would have hooked my wagon to better mentors
Hmm.
in my life. And I think early in my life I didn't have any, and then later in my life I had some, but they weren't very good. And ever since then, I've struggled to find really good mentors, and I've found some of those people in that are in this room, such as my buddy Russell Hill. And so I think that's for me. I didn't have any when I was young, and then when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I had some really bad ones, and then I kind of struggled for quite a while to find some good ones, and I found some good ones in the last few years. But when you find the good people in your life, hold on to them because they're not easy to find.
I just wanted for the record that Tony Thorstad was looking for a mentor in spiritual leadership, and he chose Russell Hill. And
You didn't say that.
I asked Mike
No.
Larkin because he chose me as a spiritual mentor, and I'm so flattered, Mike. I said, "Why me?" He said, "Well, it was either you or Idi Amin, and he's dead." So it kind of sad that the straight line was
No,
a
it
little
was your
crooked with me.
phony Irish
No, no, no,
accent
no.
that got me.
You just don't
Yeah,
like
I
all
will
those
say,
clean Irish jokes I told you last year. Jason
I
Reed,
will say in my early 30s, Larry, I did meet Jesus Christ, and that changed my life and put me on a better path. But to have good, solid men around you who are rooting for you, that have your back. I mean, I've always said the best person at your back is your wife or your sweetheart. And as long as she's got your back, you're pretty good. But when you're a man, it also helps to have other solid Christian men in your life who love the Lord and want what's best for you. So I've been blessed in the last few years with that.
okay. Jason Reed, that's some pretty deep comments. This better be good, man.
I firmly
firmly believe everything happens for a reason. We were put on this earth
Wait,
to
no,
be
wait a
where we
minute.
are.
So we just went from Tony Thorstad, who believes a divine presence showed up on Earth to save Earth, and now we just threw out the argument of the randomness of the universe.
Yeah.
We're really going full spectrum here. Keep going, Jason.
And then you got stalked by Billy Sherman.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So, but no, everything happens for a reason. We are all
By the
put
way,
on this
I
planet.
do understand that Billy
By,
Sherman did
yeah.
reach out to Jesus, but after a couple conversations, he pointed him to Buddha. He says, "I got enough problems on my hands with miracles. Just deal with that guy." Go
He
ahead.
gave him the point of his Buddha.
Yeah, there we go. Go ahead.
No, he showed his way down to South Carolina and showed it to my store, and he learned what a real operation runs like today.
I love it. Love it. Jason, what
But
would
no,
all kidding aside, what would you
everything
change if
happens.
you had the shot?
Honestly, I don't think I wouldn't change anything. Like Peter said, all of our actions, all of our inactions have made us who we are today. I wouldn't be the man that I am. I wouldn't be the man that's married to the one I am married to. And I wouldn't have two beautiful, amazing children if it weren't for the decisions or indecisions that I made previously in time. Those decisions have guided me. They have helped me learn. They have helped me grow. They have helped me be a better person. A lot of things in this life you can have regrets for, and I try my damnedest not to have them because I firmly want to be, strong in my resolve of what I say and my convictions of how I do things, how I operate, and the decisions that I make. Right or wrong, I want to stand by them. And if they're wrong, I want to learn from them. And to learn is to grow. And if I'm not growing, I'm not living. That's that.
Rhonda, do you, since you're the one that came up with this topic, would you like to tell us what you would
Actually,
say?
Larry, you're the one who came up with this topic, and I kind of regret that you did. But
See, there's your regret.
Nice.
yeah, no, it took me a long time to get past some things, and I guess that's part of growing up, and I shouldn't regret or worry about that. But at some point, my philosophy is God deals the hand, I play the cards, and that's kind of what gets me through everything. Just you get what you get, and you got to do the best you can with it.
I wove it into a song. I heard two mothers talking during COVID when the kids were home, and they said, "You get what you get, and you don't get upset." In other words,
That's
rather
it.
than moan and groan about what's going on, move forward with it.
Hmm.
Um, and isn't it kind of interesting, folks, that I don't know anybody, and I mean anybody that isn't going through something.
That's a Rolling Stone song.
Yep.
Okay. You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Written by a guy that were they were both sleeping with each other's girlfriends, and Richards was a junkie, and they came out with a song that sounds like gospel, but I love it. Um, I mean, inevitably, if we look at life as, well, I could have done this or I could have done that, you can almost get paralysis by analysis. I mean, you can't predict what's going. The only thing we know for a fact is the strongest urge we have is self-preservation, and the only thing we know for a fact is we're all going to die one day. So rather than look at it as fatalistically, if we look at it as everything is an opportunity, and we want to maximize our time, I think you can make yourself a little crazy because, as we discussed earlier, every path you take, if you take it rather than the one you're on or a differing way, you're going to have other different outcomes. Different things are going to happen. It just seems like where does it end? It's those Mobius strips that kind of fold into each other.
Well, Larry, I often say the only people on this planet without problems are the dead ones. So
Exactly
I'll take
right.
the problems.
Yeah, and
I'll take the problems.
everybody that's dead would jump out of the grave and take the problem you think you're having. That's
Right.
realistic today. I'm in my class today, and one of the things I do, I didn't get around to it because I didn't do my full course when you were in, Russell. was philosophy. And I try to find out what pushes people, whether it's religious, what push, whether it's their kids, something they're trying to prove to their older brother. And I had a kid stand up and he said, my mother was murdered in my house in front of me and my sister when I was 12.
Whoa.
And I'm 26. And, for 14 years, I've teetered with, man, can I bear going on with life? And yet somehow the kid's still here. Um, I think everything's just got to be, gathered with perspective. I mean, listen, people commit suicide. So what they're doing is they're throwing a permanent solution onto what might be a temporary problem. So I just think, if we look in the mirror and say, what am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? What can I do better? I think, listen, I'm not saying anything you all don't know. One of the problems that we have is there's probably way more depression out there than is acknowledged. That's why every once in a while somebody does something tragic and you think, oh my God, they seemed happy-go-lucky. What was the situation? So I think if everybody on this program um, seems pretty happy, seems pretty relaxed within their own life. We're striving for more, but we're trying to get there. I think if we're looking backward or forward, we've got to realize how lucky we are. Just the fact that we appreciate. I quoted Russell. He was flattered that I quoted him. I was flattered that he sat through my whole class. But I quoted Russell, and I quote him all the time by saying, it's not that I have to do this, I get to do this. That's a privilege. Jason, I've been teaching these crazy courses for 13 years. I swear to you, I never get up and go, oh, damn, I got to teach that class again. It's always like, this is going to be fun because a lot of it is extemporized. I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth. I tailor it around.
Every day is different.
Yeah. And
every day is different.
I've seen trainers show up. You've all seen them. Their haircut's much better than mine. They're wearing the fancy suit. And man, do they look bored. They're doing the same program thing. I could never work for Joe Verdi. He would fire me on day one because he doesn't let you deviate from his script. I don't even know what the hell a script is. So I think the fact that we may look back with some regrets, but we can look in the mirror and say, I like the person I see there, is a pretty good advantage. Tony's heavily into blessings and being blessed. We're blessed with the fact that we're all happy with who we are and what we are. Not that we're not trying to get better, but that we continue to roll through. Agree, Peter?
Too blessed to be depressed, Larry.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Well, you were a little in the matrix, Jay. Say that again.
You're on camera.
Yes, I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Okay, that's great. We just went from my philosophy to Usain Bolt over here.
That was either Don Gardelis or Tom
Vin Diesel.
Or it was Tom the Mongoose, whatever his name was, or it was the other guy that just crashed.
Hey, Peter, I always quote my refrigerator magnet, which is Mario Andretti. He said, if you're in full control, you're not going fast enough.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is true.
I thought about it, and we've all bared our souls, and the only thing you came up with is your mother and your bad Irish accent. I'm not quite sure that's going to fly tonight. We need to hear something that you would change more. It can be something more humiliating, sad, depressing, whatever it is, but the Irish brogue just didn't work tonight.
Just working on my courage, there's 4 steps to having breakthroughs, and one is commitment. I got committed a long time ago.
Michael, anybody that knows you would gladly sign commitment papers, so that's no problem. Jeff, prepare it. You're good with books.
Right. Well, I'm going right after you.
And if it makes you, oh, brother, they ain't enough padded rooms to keep me in. And listen, if it'll make you feel any better, stop worrying. Okay, we'll all be dead in 100 years, and none of this will matter. I'm not sure that cheered him up, Ron. It might have been a little too pragmatic for him.
Hey, Larry,
Go back to the Irish.
Larry, my wife's sitting behind me. You can't see her. Oh, she said, "What you just gave Mike a little harsh introduction there." She just walked in when you were saying his Irish accent. She goes, "Wow."
Can she hear me? Hey, there you are. Very nice to see you. No, what we're doing is we were basically bearing our souls and diving into the ocean of recrimination, regret, and self-examination. And after we all poured our souls out, Michael said, I'd like to do a better Irish brogue. And we decided that that was not
Well,
safe.
hold on. In Mike's defense, he did go first. Okay,
Well,
he did go first.
all right.
And then we all poured our
You should have been ready, Mike.
Mrs. Shearer,
I should have.
it was so heart-rending to hear Jeff talk about his first wife and her tragic end.
Yeah.
They never did find that body in the landfill. The
No.
police
This
weren't
is
able
my,
to prove
my
anything.
wife, Lisa, for those that haven't.
She didn't.
Hi,
she
Lisa.
didn't money.
Hi,
Hi. I met Mrs. Kors today. She dropped a couple grand on placemats and linens, table linens for their
She works
Easter
at
celebration.
Crate and Barrel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did she give you any beer?
No, but the
That
owner
got
of
a beer
Chick-fil-A
barrel.
came in and gave us all free sandwich cards the day before. I'm like, well, we didn't get any beer.
Probably not legal.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Happy Easter, you guys.
Me
Thank
too.
you.
Yes, sir.
God bless you.
But I was
Yeah.
saying the breakthroughs. There's 4 things that are breakthroughs, and that's from Dan Sullivan, and he said,
How is his Irish brogue?
he's from Toronto, so he's got a little bit of
Canadian brogue.
he's got a little Canadian brogue, yeah. But he's always saying, hey, the commitment is the first thing, courage is the second thing, and consistency, and then you're able to go on. I mean, muscle memory and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes I got to worry or work on my courage is saying, I got the shit,
Mike,
and
let
sometimes
me ask you
I
a question.
back off and go, okay, I'll let them talk. So
Let me ask you a question, Mike.
Hmm.
Have you heard the word no before?
every day.
So what are you scared of? Simple. You experience the word every single day. So what are you afraid of? It's another 2-word it's a 2-letter word that
Yeah.
actually means new opportunity.
Or I say next opportunity.
Next opportunity, new opportunity. You go back at them with a different opportunity. And that's how you get past the fear of no. In our business, and I will tell you, the conversion numbers that you hear today are absolute. Get the jar ready. Bullshit. They're absolutely flipping bullshit. There's no such thing as a 50% conversion in a car dealership. Not in a million years. What they're doing is they're taking your conversions and they're working it from appointment. So you now have a 50% conversion rate because if a person sits in front of you, you got a 50% chance of selling them. They're not talking phone calls, internet leads. They're not talking people who come on the lot, leave. They're not talking people in service. They're not talking about it. Your conversion rate in the car dealership is about 4 to 5%. That's the true number. Yep, they want to grandiose it so that people feel better and they can say, come work in this business because we have this kind of conversion rate. It's bullshit. It's about 5 to 8%. A great salesperson works at 9 to 12%. A great one. Now, think about that. So that's, you make 100 calls. 88 of those, if you're great, are failures. It becomes water off a duck's back at that point. You just don't worry about it anymore.
And Russell
Yeah,
has
just keep
an
moving forward.
interjection point.
Yeah, listen, I love you guys, but man, I have got to eat something. And And what I mean by that is that I'm unfortunately going to have to bow out for the rest of the show because I'm about at the end. Now, the best part of my day was with Larry and Mike and Gary for that 40 minutes we spent together. But it has been a day from HELL, and that I didn't say it out loud, so that doesn't go in the swear jar. Um, but yeah, if you guys would be gracious enough to accept my apology for bowing out, but I have my food is ready down the street, and I
You do
really
your thing, my brother.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
love you
Rusty,
go
guys.
ahead.
For putting up
thank you,
with
Russell.
And in Canada, we call it HE double hockey sticks.
And first of all, isn't hell a place? It's not a cuss word. That doesn't even qualify.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, what the hell?
There we go.
No, it's where the hell.
Do we all agree?
Well,
It's one
there's,
of
there's
two
about
things.
6 of them in the
Oh,
U.S.
Wait.
and
Do we agree it's one of two things? It's either a mythic underworld where sinners go, or it's a dealership on a slow
right.
Saturday.
And I also got to tell you, I told Larry and Mike earlier, I'll be out of town and in meetings next Wednesday, so I won't be on at all. That's the first time in I don't know how long, at least,
Yeah. Since
but if y'all are freaking out and you call the police or something, you know up front. Now, more to be revealed later on, but yeah, it's going to be busy for the next week.
That is recorded. So
Yeah.
keep
Good.
note.
Stay healthy,
Good.
eat well, and best of luck, my friend.
yeah.
Thank
We'll
you.
Good
talk
night.
Something
before
that
then,
he-
Russell.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Night.
take care.
Bye.
Okay, Mike, I stuck a link for you in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, can I throw you a piece of advice? And I'm not
Yes.
kidding. I mean it as sincerely as possible.
Yes.
I don't know any human beings that don't have fear and insecurities and doubts. And the way I handle mine is I ignore them. I push fear out. I'm scared every time I do something because I tend to take giant chances. You saw me with Rhonda come up to Connecticut and shoot 16 videos with no script.
And sick as a dog.
Sick as a dog. Boy, was I sick that night. I was scared to death that I would drive all that way and come home with nothing. So my immediate thought was, screw this. I'm going to kill this. If you convince yourself that whatever you do, you're going to put your best effort in and you're not going to worry about it, it's amazing how you can trick yourself because we always tend to get into our own heads. So there's really nothing to be nervous about or worried about because everybody that we look at as being strong and invincible, they're more insecure than we are. It seems like the more successful people are, the more they have doubts and imposter syndrome. Everybody agree? So
That's the
Oh,
link.
absolutely.
Well, Larry, I heard this. I think it was Breakfast of Champions, but somebody was like, your brain and the first thought is trying to protect you and go with your second thought. Ignore the first thought that hey, what if I get laughed at or whatever. That's the second thought that counts. So every time I have one of those thoughts, I'm like,
Mike,
hey, focus
just
on
tell
the
me
second
anytime you have
thought.
a doubt, brother, because that was a misnomer. Breakfast of Champions is when I sit down with my Raisin Bran. That's breakfast. Call me any damn time you need an uplift. Jason, you've thought about your answer. Do you regret any of the fact that you have no regrets? Has
No.
something come to
Listen,
mind?
I'm going to tell you a story. Okay, it's a little. I'm
Little
going to say
man Ned
graphic.
named Ned.
It's a little graphic, but it's a true story, and
Do I
I
need
think
the
it'll.
jar?
I think it. No. I think it'll help Mike.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I was born at Grady Memorial Hospital. And when I was born, I was without one eyelid, both eyes, one eyelid, not there. Okay. And, they had to wait a couple of months to perform the operation to assist me because they wanted to use circumcision skin because it's soft, supple, like an eyelid. So a couple of months go by and they perform the surgery. And, as you can see, both eyelids are working great, and albeit I'm a little cockeyed, I still stand strong every day. that was total BS story. But I hope it was good enough to make you laugh. And
That's the definition of cockeyed.
right, your thing.
Bob, can I join in that has nothing to do with anything, but might be good. Do you guys?
Poor Russell missed out on that, man. I'm sorry.
No, it was great. It was great. Is anybody on the
Go away.
program? Is anybody on the program at all a basketball fan? Mike, Peter, I know you're more hockey. Jeff Shearer, any?
Thanks, Smith.
NBA.
Okay. I was coming back from Texas, and I dialed in an audio book that I've listened to before and that I read before. Man, did it make me feel good. John Feinstein, who just passed away years and years ago, was invited to a steady Tuesday lunch at a Chinese restaurant with Red Auerbach and his brother. Man, I just don't know if I've ever enjoyed an audiobook more than that. It's called, I'm only triggering it because you said, let me tell you a story. That's what it's called. Let me tell you a story. It's John Feinstein. It's about Red Auerbach. And if you enjoy biography, if you enjoy characters with real integrity that are wildly successful, you talk about Breakfast to Champions. I mean, Auerbach's the greatest basketball genius executive that ever lived, bar none, what he did. But if you want an audiobook, it's short. My God, is it fabulous. Let me tell you a story. John Feinstein writing about Red Auerbach. That's all. You triggered it when you said that, Jason.
Well, thank you.
Well, I mean, I got slammed for the Irish accent sounding like a Jamaican accent. What about Jason and his cockeyed story? I mean,
That was
I mean,
fun.
that's pretty good. I can't believe I kept a straight face. I mean,
no,
oh my God.
with the glasses up and hey, I'm a little cockeyed.
See, my eyes are fine. Yeah, terrible.
But he still stands today.
Man,
I love it. I love it.
that's
Jeff,
a good.
your wife's out of the room. Have you rethought your regrets?
No, I'm
I
sticking.
regret
Coming on this call tonight.
inviting Jason into the blind partnership.
Nah, Jason.
Oh,
Got
come on.
behind you.
Come on. I'm the comedic relief. Come on.
Yeah.
Just, between me and Larry, we got to keep.
Hey,
We're
Jay, do me a
hilarious.
favor too. Your compadre at the Mercedes store.
Oh boy.
Please tell him I asked about him. He before you guys got bought out by that giant conglomerate, he hired me to get him some personnel. I did.
Oh, Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, what a pleasure.
He's on vacation all week long.
Yeah, what a pleasure he was to do business with.
He's a fantastic human being and one of the good ones.
Just tell him I asked about him.
Absolutely, we'll do.
So, Mike, you're still on.
Oh, yeah, I'm still on, huh?
You didn't finish.
Keeps coming back to you, Mike.
Yeah.
All round and round we go.
Let me get this right. You've complained 107 times that you're always last. This time we made you first, and we got the weak Irish brogue story, and now you're at a loss for words. Let's go back to Jason and see if there's any other body parts we need to know about.
I mean, you guys know about my teeth and my eyes. I mean, my goodness.
Damn bionic man of the car business.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you a little story.
No.
By the way, are you you're close to Massachusetts? Do you know? And boy, did I love this story. Do you know how Red Auerbach got Bill Russell?
No.
Bill Russell changed basketball. He changed history. He's the greatest winner that ever was involved in any sport. 2 championships in college, a gold medal, 11 out of 13 championships going up against Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West and Elgin Baylor and Oscar Robertson. His former college coach called him up. They had no ESPN. You didn't have constant. It says, you got to draft this guy, Russell. The problem was they didn't have the number 1 pick. They had the number 2 pick. And what he did was he had his owner call the owner of the team that was ahead of them. I'm not making this up, and promise them the ice capades. because apparently back then the Ice Capades were a bigger draw than pro basketball.
Yep.
That's a
So
that's
that's
a
how
story like a someone out of
that,
Slapshot.
that's how Bill Russell came to the Celtics, which obviously changed
Jeez.
the history as we know it. Listen, you could go back to Portland being the biggest snake bit draft teams of all time, of all time. They had an opportunity to take Michael Jordan, but they had a guy named Kawhi Drexler who was a terrific guard. He wasn't in Jordan's league, but he was terrific. And they thought, we already have a guard. Let's take Sam Bowie, who was constantly injured and he did nothing. And obviously, Jordan changed the world and he's a billionaire. Then you fast forward 20 years, they had a chance to take Kevin Durant, and they picked a center who was strong and agile and injury prone. I think he must have played 15 games in the pros, and they gave up on Durant. So it's kind of hard.
Was that Greg Odom?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard
Ah,
to think that they passed on Kevin Durant for Greg Odom and Michael Jordan for Sam Bowie. Once again, you talk about how regrets and how history could have been a little bit different.
Well, think about it. YouTube, or sorry, Yahoo passed on Google for $800,000.
Peter,
Hey,
I've told you this before because I'm a big fan of the late great David Halberstam, one of my favorite authors. He wrote a book called The Reckoning, which followed Nissan and Ford, since they were the second biggest in the respective countries, behind GM, behind Toyota. And they had the American car companies had such disrespect for the foreign companies, particularly the Japanese. Jason, this is going to blow your mind. Henry Ford, the second, not the first, was offered a chance to buy Honda, the whole company, and passed on it. He thought they were fly by nighter. How scary is that, Peter? Of course, they probably would have destroyed Honda, so it wouldn't be the product that we know of these days, right?
Well,
That's
look
true.
at Jack Nasser. Jack Nasser bought all the brands out there. He bought Mazda, he bought Jaguar, Land Rover, Aston Martin. He bought Volvo. He bought a number of them, and wanted to create a brand for Ford called the Premier Auto Group. And in doing so, he did everything, and he was this close to buying BMW, and he had negotiated the deal in principle, just like they did with Ferrari before they lost that to Anganelli's. And he was at the dinner after they negotiated and they agreed. And he turned around to one of the guys in the room and he goes, "Finally, I got it off that bitch." And BMW is owned by a woman, and it's a privately held company owned by a woman. I think her name's Sarah Quant, and she it got back to her, and they never got the opportunity, and that was the opportunity to take Premier Auto Group to where it needed to be, and they lost everything. They don't own one of those companies right now. They're all gone because of one stupid mistake. So, anyways, having said that, I just want to add a couple things to tonight's call. Again, we are Larry and the gang and I are all heading down to Florida on the 22nd of this month or next month, sorry. And we will be at the Grand Hyatt for the Connect Convert Close event. Larry and Sean Armour will be the headline speakers, and we look to see lots of GMs and leadership there. Tomorrow night, I'm having Sean on my show, which will be an interesting show because I have Anthony Alagonia on it as well. Two big powerhouse BDC guys going at it with different directions and what BDC should be. And I'm going to throw them a bunch of curveballs and we're going to see how they answer. And it should be an interesting night for everyone to listen into. And that's my daily housekeeping out of the way. And now I can go back to listening to you guys talk about issues that you've haven't overcome yet. So. Sorry, it's the cockeye thing.
Wow.
Not as funny though.
Which one is it?
Both
Can't
of
you
them.
tell?
You're,
The
you're
stiff
blinking
one.
both eyes.
It's the stiff one.
Oh,
Alrighty.
Little
We should
housekeeping for
we
me,
should end this right now.
Rhonda. I
It's the
hope to
one
get
that's
with you
not drinking in the
tomorrow.
morning.
No,
Jeff is
he's
out of his
it's,
chair.
he's planted an image that will never be removed. We'll never look at his eyes the same way again.
Look deeply into my eyes. No,
This
no.
show might need some editing, Rhonda.
I'll tell you what.
Oh,
I
I
think
might
we're
have to put. I might have to put that out to the cyber world. That I have this friend who's got a cockeye.
You know what? You think about it. We were talking about perspective. I think it's great that the biggest problem he had was he was missing an eyelid. They replaced it in the world. You hear tragic stories about people that are children that are born with horrible congenital defects or that die, in infancy. I think it's cool that a guy that we all like and respect dealt with something that was minor and nothing. No, I mean, if you think about it, it's pretty cool, right? What do
I
they
wouldn't.
say,
I
Jason? They
wouldn't
say,
call it minor.
well, not minor until you see some of the things that go on in a pediatric cancer ward, or it may not be a
No,
minor at the time and to you, but thank God you're here, and
and you have
and
eyes.
yeah, yeah. I don't know about us, but he certainly has amused himself on this call.
I really wish that I could take credit for that story. I mean, I really do. There's a comedian that we recently sold a car to. His name's Redbone. I don't know if anybody's heard of this guy, but he's toured with Steve Harvey, Kevin Hart, and some pretty big names. And he was in the store, and he laid that joke down, and I was like, I'm from Atlanta. I'm truly from Atlanta, and I was truly born at Grady Memorial. And I told him that, and he was like, "Oh wow!" And I was like, "I'm gonna use this joke." He was like, "Take it." I was like, "He's like, take it."
Flawless.
Yeah.
Flawless.
Perfect.
It was one for the ages.
Do we have folks? It looks like we've explored all our paths here. Does anybody have anything else that they want to discuss or voice or get out there? Hey, Jason, I'm not putting the arm on you. I'm just mentioning it. If you have anybody in your store that could stand a tune-up, BDC, sales, man, we are going to absolutely not waste 1 second of this. I got some great stuff planned. So to Sean, we're going to do some stuff together, and we're really going to focus on making both teams more effective by working together. So
Yeah,
It's only about 4 hours to Tampa.
can I come down there and tell my story?
you sure can.
Yes, you can. For $297, you can tell your story at the break time to everybody.
On stage.
For 397, I'll actually nod my head and pretend it's a good story too. I'm very easily bought.
I love it. I like that. I like that.
It's a short drive down to Tampa from where you
No,
are.
that's not. No, it's not bad at all.
No,
Actually, you go right down.
We'd love to see you, Jason.
Yeah,
scoot out to the 75 and straight down.
that's all I got to do.
Cool.
It's when the 22nd.
It's May 22nd. Yeah. It's a Thursday. I guarantee you'll come back with some really cool stuff for your staff. Not maybe, it's a guarantee. We're really taking this thing seriously. We really want it to be good. Sean flew across Canada to see me with his son Mason, great kid. And ever since then, and I'm talking years ago, he's been bugging me to do something. And he's such a good guy, and he has such a great concept of BDC and just being a good human being that I'm really thrilled to do this with him. So any support we get, we'd appreciate it. And I promise you, nobody's going to come back disappointed from this. It's going to really
awesome.
be.
One programming note on Mondays. I open up a room on Clubhouse from 7:30 to 8:30, 1 hour. And I just regurgitate what I learned on Mondays for our AI training. It's all day, all night. And we stop. I take a breath at 7:30 to 8. I open up one Google Room. So if somebody wants to share their screen, or I can share my screen,
Mike,
open it up.
a pretty good way to preview things is probably not to mention regurgitation and what you're going to be putting out there. Just a thought for you.
Well, yeah,
Marketing
yeah.
tip.
Well, I mean, I haven't eaten yet,
Visuals.
so
It's all in the visuals.
it's
Guys,
all in the
it's
visuals.
7:59. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your input. We look forward to seeing you next week. And as always, Rhonda, Peter, myself, we thank you, and but we can't tell you how much we appreciate you and how much we enjoy the time we get to spend together on Wednesdays. We thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.